Morning, kids. Today I'm going to read you a little book here that I used to read as a child when I was in school. Do you guys remember school? Remember what that thing was when we used to go there? This is a series of short stories about one one student known as Horrible Harry. And there's about 4 short stories in here. I'm going to read one of them to you today, but this is something I read as a kid, so I think you guys are going to enjoy it too. The title of the story is Horrible Harry and the Christmas Surprise. But like I said, there's a couple different short stories in here about Horrible Harry for us to look at, okay? So the author is Susie Klein, and the pictures are by Frank Remkowitz. All right? So without further ado, we're going to read the chapter known as Horrible Sounds. Crickety-crick, crickety-creak. The teacher rocked back and forth in her old reading chair. Harry leaned on his elbow and made a wide smile. I could see his pink gums where his 2 front teeth used to be. Don't you love that sound, Doug? Crickety-creak, crickety-creak. No, I said, shaking my head, but Harry would. He loves things like that. Slimy things, creepy things, hairy things, and horrible sounds. I know. I sit next to him in room 2B. Harry's my best friend. Even his cat's name has a horrible sound. Googer. Sometimes he just calls him the Goog, which sounds kind of scary. Googer, what a name for a cat. Suddenly, a fire truck zoomed by South School, sounding its siren. Dee-doo, dee-doo, dee-doo. Harry jumped out of his seat and ran to the window. Look, there it goes, speeding in the snow. Harry, Miss Mackle called, sit down. Dee-doo, dee-doo, dee-doo. Harry needs to sit down in class. You guys need to, too. Harry watched the fire truck zoom up and over the hill. Then he sat down, folded his hands, and gave the teacher a gummy smile. I think we're ready now for a story, Miss Mackle said. It's a very special story because it's been read over and over for 168 years. Sidney threw his hands in the air. Why read it if everyone's read it so much? Because it's so good, Sidney. If I've heard it, I don't want to hear it again, he said, plugging his ears. Read the story, the rest of us shouted. Miss Mackle rocked in her chair as she opened her big, heavy storybook and turned to the right page. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house. I love that story, Mary exclaimed. Me too, Sidney said, taking his fingers out of his ears. While everyone was clapping and cheering, Ida said, Miss Mackle, you look pretty today in your green dress and green sparkly earrings. Miss Mackle whispered thank you as she turned the page and rocked in her chair. Crickety-creak, crickety-creak. Not a creature was stirring, not even a... Ah! Suddenly, the creaky chair tipped all the way back and the bottom fell through. Miss Mackle landed on the floor with a thud and kaboom! Can you guys imagine if one of your teachers fell out of their chair? My goodness gracious, she shouted. There was our teacher sitting on the floor on broken pieces of wood. The big, heavy storybook went flying in the air. It knocked the globe off its stand and sent the world bouncing into the hallway. There's the world bouncing into the hallway. Thunk, thunk, thunk. One of Miss Mackle's green sparkly earrings took a nosedive into the fish tank. Blub, blub, blub. 3 guppies took a quick look and then swam away fast. Oh, Miss Mackle, there she is. Everyone got out of their seats and rushed to the teacher. We stood there in a circle with our mouths open. Are you okay? We all asked. Miss Mackle started to giggle. Well, I'm glad I fell gracefully. I could be standing on my head. While the rest of the class was laughing, I covered my eyes. I didn't want to picture the teacher standing on her head. After we helped her get up, we took the wood pieces and dropped them in the big waste paper basket. Clunk, bong, thunk. That was a dumb old rocker, Sidney said, slapping his hands clean. No, it wasn't, Harry replied. I like that crickety old chair. You just like horrible things, Sidney replied. You are just off your rocker, Harry said, holding up a fist. Now, Miss Mackle said, limping back to her desk chair. Christmas is only 4 days away. It's time for peace and goodwill. Just then, the principal showed up at the door. Anybody in here need a world? He asked, holding up the globe. All right, so there's horrible Harry, thinking about the teacher standing on his desk. And there's the principal with the world in his hand. We do, Miss Mackle exclaimed. Everyone laughed as the principal returned the world to the globe stand. Miss Mackle, are you going to finish the story? Mary asked. What story is Miss Mackle reading? Mr. Cardini asked. The Night Before Christmas, Mary replied. It's 168 years old. That old, huh? Well, I haven't heard it yet this year. May I join you? He said, pulling up a little blue chair from the library table. What do you think, class? Miss Mackle asked. Yes! Miss Mackle opened her big, heavy storybook and turned to the right page. Why doesn't everyone help me read the story this time? Everyone sat up and waited for their cue. 'Twas the night before Christmas, we called out. And all through the house, Mr. Cardini boomed. Not a creature was stirring, we replied. Harry made monster hands. Not even a mouse, Mr. Cardini twisted his mustache and squeaked. Song Lee giggled. Sidney laughed so hard he was snorting like a pig. Room 2B is full of sounds. Some of them are horrible, and some of them are fun. All right, that concludes that chapter of Horrible Harry's Adventures. So, thanks for listening, kids. I highly recommend this book, Horrible Harry. He's got a ton of different series on there. Check it out, and keep reading.